Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the fascinating world of Bob Camblin.
Oh, yeah, a really interesting artist. Sort of enigmatic, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. His life and work offer this unique perspective on art, life, perception, just about everything, really.
And we've got some great sources to dig into.
We do. Exhibition reviews, personal quotes, bits from books like the Camblin Retrospective and Bob Camblin quotes and other mysteries.
Plus some historical context, right? Reviews of shows like Zen and the Art of Enlightenment and his Incomplete Works, Volume 1.
And even a quote from his good friend, the artist Earl Staley.
Their collaboration was pretty important later on.
It was. So our mission today is really to unpack Camblin's artistic journey, his way of thinking.
Explore those recurring themes, what made him influential, especially in Houston.
Exactly. Go beyond just the biography and figure out why his art resonated, why people still seek it out.
Okay, let's get into it. Where does his story start?
It starts back in Oklahoma in 1928, and it sounds like art was there from the beginning.
All right, his parents were artists.
Both of them. So he was exposed to different mediums, right from childhood.
Growing up in Ponca City, the Marlin era. That sounds quite evocative.
It does. The grandeur of the Marland estate, that big pioneer woman statue.
And didn't that statue reappear in his work later?
Subtly, yeah. As Vidi, a little nod to his mother, Viva Camblin.
Wow. Those early visual markers really stick, don't they?
They seem to. And it wasn't just local landmarks, The Wizard of Oz, the movie. Apparently, that had a huge impact on his imagination.
I can sort of see that. Maybe a sense of wonder or the surreal.
Maybe. He also had this lifelong friend, Forrest Harrisberger. Met him in high school art class.
66 years, that's quite a friendship.
Isn't it? They even sketched together during the Korean War, both in the Air Force Reserve, stationed in California, sketching the coastline.
That shared experience, observing and drawing together, that must have been formative.
I think so. It points to that value he placed on connection, on shared artistic practice. We see that later, too.
Definitely. So after the Air Force,
he went to the Kansas City Art Institute, reconnected with Harrisberger there, and apparently he just devoured books.
oh, like what?
Emerson, the I Ching, haiku, quite a mix.
Interesting. Emerson's individualism, the I Ching's focus on change, the brevity of haiku.
You can almost see the seeds of his later philosophy there, right? Valuing intuition, suggestion, the shifting nature of things.
Yeah, it's like he was gathering these different ways of seeing the world.
Yeah.
And then Italy, the Fulbright.
Yes, that sounds like a major turning point. He was blown away by the old masters, the Uffizi.
Understandably.
Yeah.
Botticelli, Michelangelo.
But also he was really struck by the Capuchin catacombs in Palermo.
The mummies.
Yeah, that imagery apparently stayed with him. Quite a contrast, isn't it? Renaissance masterpieces and, well, mummified monks.
It really is. The height of artistic beauty versus this stark reminder of mortality.
Exactly. Maybe that early collision of the ideal and the real, the beautiful and the decaying, planted that seed about illusion and impermanence in his work.
That makes a lot of sense. And his Fulbright work got shown, right?
Yeah, even at the Chicago Art Institute. So early recognition. And you see those influences popping up in his paintings later.
Like the Botticelli references.
Right. His Birth of Venus was a tribute to KPFT Radio, the Houston station, but visually inspired by Botticelli.
Mixing contemporary references with art history.
And his Flora, based on Botticelli's Primavera, was apparently full of hidden images, already playing with layers of meaning.
So even early on, he wasn't just copying. He was interpreting, adding his own layers, almost setting up puzzles.
Seems like it. Okay, so after building this foundation, he moves into teaching.
Taught at quite a few places before Rice University in '69.
And Houston's art scene apparently welcomed him with open arms. Galleries, collectors.
But he had some critiques of that world, didn't he?
He did. Felt galleries and museums made the same curatorial mistakes as artists.
What do you mean by that?
It's not entirely clear, but he proposed this alternative way of exhibiting, showing the artist's complete environment, not just isolated works.
Interesting. Like stepping into the artist world, context and all. A more holistic view.
Yeah, maybe a critique of how art gets fragmented, taken out of context.
And he had a strange relationship with selling art, too. Sometimes refusing payment.
Right. Not your typical career move. It suggests maybe the art itself, the connection, was more important than the money sometimes.
A commitment to the vision over the commerce, perhaps?
Perhaps. Which maybe leads into his next big move. In 1976, he just quit. Left his academic career.
Walked away to become a nomadic artist. That's a major leap.
Isn't it? suggests a real need for freedom, for direct experience to fuel the work. Academia felt too confining, maybe.
Likely. So this nomadic period, where did
Right.
he go?
All over. Italy, France, Ireland, Mexico, the South Pacific. Funded by selling paintings and commissions along the way.
And the art from this time captured those travels.
Yeah, but his philosophy seemed to shift too. He wanted the art to evoke emotion, contemplation directly,
Yeah.
kind of bypassing criticism or the market.
Aiming for that immediate, visceral connection with the viewer.
Yeah.
Less intellectual, more intuitive.
Exactly. And he had this idea about doing your own thing, that just being an artist contributes to the balance of nature.
That sounds very Zen. Like authentic expression has its own intrinsic value.
Right. And his definition of art broadened, not just art for art's sake.
But art for life's sake, or even survival's sake.
Yeah. That implies art has a deeper function, doesn't it? More than just aesthetics.
It positions art as something vital, maybe a tool for understanding or navigating life. Essential.
Okay, let's track his style. He started with abstract impressionism.
But then came Muchas Volantes in the 70s. That sounds pretty unique.
It does. Inspired by Dada, surrealism, using these tiny dots and dashes.
Based on visual perception principles, creating optical illusions, shimmering effects.
Yeah, playing with how our eyes fill in the gaps. Not like typical op art. It sounds more subtle, maybe hallucinatory.
What prompted that shift? From expressive brushwork to meticulous dots.
Good question. Maybe a desire to explore perception itself. Influenced by surrealism's focus on the subconscious, Dada's absurdity, he was always exploring.
And he wasn't always exploring alone, right? The Houston collaborations.
Right. With Earl Staley and Joe Tate, they formed groups like B&E Productions, the holding firm.
Putting on unconventional shows, collaborative drawing events,
Yeah.
even a tattoo show.
Yeah. Seems like that shared creation was really important to him. Less about the individual genius.
And didn't he sometimes sign things anonymous?
He did, or anonymous artists, really emphasizing that submerging of the ego and the collective.
That ties into his drawing style too, doesn't it? Not defined by a light source.
But by movement,
Yeah.
cross-hatching, and often with text woven in, clues, hints. Sometimes he called them traps.
Traps.
Yeah, like ways to draw the viewer in, make them look closer, decipher things. He saw the works as puzzles for self-discovery.
So the active viewing becomes active participatory. You're not just looking, you're decoding.
Exactly, and the whole point seemed to be questioning reality, using surprise, weird juxtapositions, non sequiturs.
He compared his aim to remaking Goya for the 20th century.
Yeah,
That's ambitious.
it is like Cézanne wanting to remake Poussin. It puts him in that lineage of artists looking intensely at the past but trying to forge something new.
Seeing Goya's intensity, maybe the darker human stuff, through a modern, perhaps more fragmented or absurd lens.
Could be. We see these phases too. Early 50s, social protest, heavy outline.
Social realism, basically.
Then blending that with non-objective forms to create these sort of human symbols.
In the 60s, blending Hugo van der Gogh's poetry with Goya's emotion.
Quite a combo.
Yeah.
In the 70s, focused on life cycles, metamorphosis, mystery, puppets, scarecrows, skulls, murky water.
Drawing on Freud, De Chirico, Grunewald. Big, heavy influences there.
Seems like a constant grappling with existence, the seen and unseen, even as the style shifted.
That Scarecrow series, inspired by Gunter Grass,
Yeah.
sounds interesting. Spring renewal, but evolving into myths metamorphosis.
Yeah. And even later in the 80s, with those interwoven drawings and watercolors, the key was still looking past the obvious, focusing on the draftsmanship to find hidden stuff.
So motifs like scarecrows, puppets, they suggest transformation, maybe vulnerability, the subconscious.
I think so. And moving towards myth suggests tapping into something universal. The focus on draftsmanship shows that core skill remained vital for him, the key to unlocking things.
Okay, let's pull out some of those core themes. That interplay between the visual and the philosophical seems key.
Definitely. The images are like triggers for thought, visual riddle.
And those paradoxes he played with. Traps that don't trap, structures that don't move.
They mess with your expectations, right? Force you to look again, question assumptions. Highlights how contradictory reality can be.
And illusion, impermanence, connecting back to that Italy trip, maybe.
Seems likely. That awareness of things being fleeting, deceptive, it runs through so much of his work.
Which ties into that idea of everyday enlightenment, finding beauty in absurdity, accepting impermanence through art.
How do you think the art encourages that?
Well, by presenting these unexpected things, these puzzles, it sort of jolts you into paying closer attention, questioning the obvious, finding insight in the ordinary.
So art becomes a tool for self-inquiry, Question assumptions, don't jump to conclusions.
Right. And he valued intuition alongside logic, that, quote, believing and knowing are different. What's the takeaway there?
It feels like a call for direct experience, critical thinking over just accepting things. Knowing requires more than just belief.
And seeing the artist as a free agent, committed only by desire.
That fits his life, doesn't it? The nomadic path, resisting structures, and making art participatory fits the puzzles, the collaborations.
It invites the viewer in, makes them part of the process, not just a passive recipient.
So many layers. Cycles of experience, the limits of language, hidden meanings. It creates this sense of art that's never quite finished.
Always invites you back for another look. Resist easy answers.
And I love concepts like the mystic switch.
That gut feeling of truth, right? Beyond just thinking.
Yeah. And stepping off the train of thought, getting beyond that linear logic to find deeper understanding.
Powerful metaphors. And resist and submit. What do you make of that one?
Maybe the tension between pushing against things and accepting them, asserting your will versus going with the flow, that creative tension.
Could be. And the final kicker. When understood, all truth is funny.
It's brilliant. Suggests a kind of cosmic humor, maybe. That deep understanding brings a certain lightness, seeing the absurdity in it all.
A mischievous wisdom. So later in life, he moves away, Oregon, then Louisiana, with his wife, Nancy.
Yeah, and sadly lost touch with his Houston friends for a long time. Came back for a visit just before he passed in 2006.
It's poignant that his Houston friends tried to get a museum show going, but it didn't happen then.
But they did organize a show at a frame shop to help him out after he had a stroke. Shows how much the community valued him.
Definitely speaks volumes. And now he's seen as one of Houston's old masters, a mystical trickster.
His work is sought after, sells fast, inspires younger artists. Staley called him a lifelong teacher.
And Carolyn Farb saw that joy of making art in his Big Al painting. It's a legacy that's more than just objects.
Absolutely. Teacher, collaborator, philosophical voice. His impact was multifaceted.
So, summing up Bob Camblin, incredibly complex, captivating artist.
Yeah, defied easy labels, loved paradox, questioned everything, embedded all these layers, inviting you into this process of discovery.
The nomadic life, the collaborations, it all fueled this really rich, thought-provoking body of work that still challenges you.
He really reminds you that art can be more than just something to look at. It can be a catalyst, a puzzle, a way to understand yourself better.
A testament to artistic exploration and really the mystery of creativity itself.
So, a final thought for you listening. Think about the puzzles in your own life, the ambiguities, the hidden meanings.
How might Camblin's way of questioning, looking beyond the obvious, help you engage with those complexities?
Maybe find some unexpected insights. His art suggests true understanding isn't always about finding answers,
But about that persistent, open-minded exploration. Keep looking.
Thanks for diving deep with us.